start off the meeting, or this coffee. So my name is Jillian Godbout, I'm the president of the PTA. If you don't know who I am. The PTA has invited the school board to come in a really informal way tonight. We really decided to go round table, no tables between them and us. We're all citizens. We all have one general, care tonight, and that's our kids, right? And making sure that the Hooksett public education can be the best that it can be. So, no questions too silly, I would assume, right? It's a pretty open floor. Can't answer, they'll tell you who will be able to answer your questions. And I just want everyone to have a chance to ask some questions that they've been thinking about and to hopefully make some more transparency, especially as the budget and policies really start coming into place at this time of the year, so that everyone knows what's going on. And feel free to share anything you learned here tonight and get the message out there. We are recording and we'll put it up on our website for the people who could not attend tonight. Anybody have any other questions about the flow of this evening? Bathrooms are out the hall. If you don't know, coffee is brewing, if not ready, and there's food and water. So feel free to get up and make yourself comfortable, okay?
I'm Greg, anyway, from the school board. Greg and Todd, so you guys know.
Yeah, let's introduce yourself. That's a great idea.
I'm Mike Summers.
I'm Jim Sullivan.
Adam Genizio.
Kara Santos.
Phil Dendar.
I'm Curtis Keys. I'm not on the board.
I'm Jen Keys. And I'm Lindsay Liberty.
Courtney McDonald. Nicole Rugby.
Jen Fay.
Anita Fields.
Joe Chen.
Marianne Boucher. Marianne Susie. Sarah Hummel. Jennifer Campbell.
I surely have to say, this is the first time the full school board has been at a PTA meeting.
No,
And
it's
I've been
nice.
doing this a long time, and I got to a couple, but this is the first time we've actually met as a group with the PTA, so it's fantastic.
So if you guys have questions for us, feel free. There's a number of board members in the room at some point tonight. If you have any questions about us, feel free to ask as well.
Go break the ice.
So who wants to break the ice?
I'll go first, why not? So I'm here as a resident of Hooksett. I know I do have the teacher hat, but I'm taking that off right now. So my question to you is, I have an 18-month-old and I have a current first grader at Underhill. My question is, what are your thoughts on full-day kindergarten, knowing that I do have an 18-month-old who is nothing like her sister and really does need full-day kindergarten, just based on what I've seen and knowing that she probably would benefit from getting into a system very quickly. I know it's been on the ballot twice. Last year I don't really count it as being on the ballot because we get put off of the ballot. So because of miscommunication and what I understand. So where is everybody in the process with that? Like their thoughts on full day K? Go for it.
So a couple of years ago, we decided as a board that we fully supported full day K. I was on the research committee with Mary Ann, and we did a ton of research. And I think we're all on the same page with that. We're just trying to figure out how we implement it. So as you know, or I think through all the studies, you have to have 1,000 square feet in a classroom to have a kindergarten classroom. So the square footage exists as Underhill currently is, but then you're displacing someone else. So where do you move those other people? So then you've got the portable, which shouldn't even be there, in my opinion. But how do you get rid of it? Because there's people, there's bodies in there. So we're looking at, I don't know, I have a couple ideas of just trying to think outside the box of how you can do it without a massive renovation, because that seemed to be the sticking point that didn't pass the first go around. So we had, the thing is, if you put a warrant article out and it fails, anything that was in that warrant article cannot happen with that year's budget. So if you have money at the end of the year on a fund balance, and we had there was multiple things at Underhill that are not ADA compliant. There's multiple safety concerns at the school as well. There's parking, there's playground, and then we're not even talking structural to be able to accommodate full day K. So we figured while we had construction, we'd do everything at once and try to take care of it. So we put it all in that first warrant article. It failed. So we couldn't use any fund balance to address any of those issues because the voters said no. And the way it is, no means no, and that was that. So the next year came and we decided to tackle it a little bit differently. It was a whole long thing, and in any case, we had to zero it out, and it couldn't even get a chance to be voted on. So now we're back to the drawing board, and we're trying to figure out how we want to address it. We're going to tackle some of the, we're putting some things into the budget, the proposed budget that we'll vote on in March for next year that will address ADA and safety things, because if we put that again into a warrant article and it fails again, that's another year that we can't do anything. It's against the law to fix something that's against the law. So it's like, it's crazy, that doesn't really make sense, so we're trying to figure out how we can fix it and be fair to the taxpayers at the same time. So that's kind of where we're at. We have a lot of discussions coming up to just try to brainstorm and figure out the best solution.
And does everyone know why we at the deliberative session, the school board decided to zero that out?
Yeah, because we would have been like Pembroke had to be like 2,000 out of pocket, isn't that correct? Like there
No,
was
the
something
reason, the
here.
reason for that is that under the budgetary act that the school district follows, the voters approve, that the voters cannot authorize a budget that's more than 10% above the operating budget. So unfortunately, the budget committee at that point voted no. So at a $32 million budget, that 3.2 you could spend. The cost of the project was 4.3. So in order to do that, and the way it was placed, that you would have to spend you would spend the 4.2 million on the school, but then we would be short 1.5.
And that's what you had fallen.
So we had
Pembroke.
so that's why there was an attempt to, I think you attempt to bring it to the end, so at least, we could at least spend some of that.
Yeah, now wasn't it the first time it was on the ballot, it only missed by, like it had
Six.
part of it, correct?
It was a beautiful sunny day. So
Yeah,
I'm
well,
sure
that's
that-
the problem, yeah, the weather really did, really did impact
Lot
that
of
vote,
noise.
I think. So that is the downside to that, like we did, I feel like we were very close to it, and if it wasn't for the weather, we might have had a different outcome,
I think
so.
the first one was very similar to the first picketing contract, whereas a lot of people go, oh, it's gonna pass, that's a no-brainer. Like,
Yeah.
oh my God, kindergarten's a no-brainer, and they stay home.
Yeah.
But like, they're like, you know, I don't know, maybe their husband's caught up and one of them can't make it or something like that, and then they just go the heck with it, and then again, it comes down to a handful of votes.
Yeah.
So we were off by literally like,
6 votes.
Yeah, it was insane.
Because you need the 2/3 vote, and of course, things failing first time around of occurrence, this project here wasn't passed the first year. The Underhill project, going back quite a few years ago, the new addition where the kindergarten is, that didn't pass the first year. The gymnasium at Underhill failed, lost by 1 vote, and that was at a regular meeting back in 1962, going back, I'm here one time, so. So we have a thing, even the Hudson Safety Center, that took 2 votes, so. To go back to what Kara said.
Yeah, but even if you look typically at the surrounding SAUs, how long did it take for Auburn to get that approved? It was on the ballot numerous times before they finally
And
approved.
it's a smaller project than they
Yeah.
originally proposed the
Yeah.
first 2 times.
Yeah.
We also learned from that as well, because I think the first time we marketed it as the kindergarten project, right?
Yeah,
But we also didn't we didn't focus heavily on the addition and the upgrades, if you will, the ADA compliance stuff that we needed to do. And we learned from that the first year too, that maybe that we didn't market it the right way. Because the parents that want the kindergarten, they want it, they know it.
yeah.
It's the other people that don't have anything to do with kindergarten, and compare to us, if we had focused more on the ADA, they probably would have paid more attention to that. So we tried that. But
And I think there's still a lot of misconceptions out there about it, because I think people don't realize the ADA part of it, and I think that needs to be better communicated, because I think we would see a better, like, turnout at the polls in regards to that. I don't think people realize that there is safety concerns for in general for like the building and structures and stuff.
so the downside is we're actually already put that stuff in the budget for next year, so that wouldn't be part of any project we did.
Oh, okay.
Because those things needed to be done, right? So there's changes to the entrance being made, again, for safety of the kids. There's some other items at the other schools. And obviously, Underhill is our oldest school, so anybody that's been there in a while looks around, it's like, needs heavy upgrades of the bathrooms and stuff, have the old urinals, go to the floor, whatever, unlike the town hall, right?
Yeah.
So Yeah, so I don't know, it's a tough one because I think a lot of people don't understand the fact that they love kindergarten, they don't understand the fact that we need the space. And again, the portable classrooms have to go too, they're old, dilapidated, they don't get any kind of ADA stuff and all that too. I know that, I think the reading classes and the reading specialists,
Yeah.
right? So, yeah, so, I don't know.
Well, I think that's a good point, because where we are in some of the bathrooms and the, the push plates to get in and out of the school, things like that for the ADA, we'll need to make sure that people understand that's in the budget, because we need the budget to pass as well, and, yeah.
So no, I had a couple of moms push me at the gym in the morning and say, I want to be a teacher actually. And she's like, she's finding that the nursery schools and et cetera, a lot of them now aren't doing like a full day program because they think that all the schools are having full day programs like in Manchester or something like that. So it's leaving less options for parents to teach their kids because they're not offering full day for the kids because they think we have full day. You know what I mean? Kind of everybody's on the wagon, get it there, we're not there.
That kind of goes with my question. I want to piggyback off of that. I'm new to Hooksett, and I have an 8-year-old here, and then I have a 4-year-old at Polka Dots right now, and I do want to send her here. Being new to Hooksett, being new to kindergarten, I was wondering if there was any way we could get together a list of before school, after school options for kindergarten parents. So that, I don't know right now what's out there for transport. I don't know what's out there for, before or after school care. So I was wondering if there's any way the district could work with the child care centers to kind of talk to them and see what's available for parents and because I want to send my daughter, even though it's half day, I think it's really beneficial for the core curriculum. But I just don't know, like I know my daughter's daycare right now won't do the transport because they don't know if they'll have enough people. So I think if the district worked with the daycares around here and the child care centers around here, it would be really beneficial to all of the kindergarten parents who are looking for something. And I think it might kind of up the ante when it comes to parents choosing to send their kids to a half-day program.
Looks like, I'm sorry, I was gonna say, I think he's writing that down, but there is outreach to the preschool program to those, if it has extensive as we could. I'm not sure, but I think that's something maybe Christina, I don't know what her last name is, the special ed.
Yes,
That's something, so there is some outreach that they do, whether it's as much as information that you want, but that's certainly something we could, unless you want to.
And I would think, I work for one of these ed centers, and I know that they would love that. We're trying to get together and work with the SAU to do a thing this spring on kindergarten readiness.
Yes.
What do they need for kindergarten? We'd love to, PTA would love to sponsor an event like that in conjunction, because there are a lot of private centers in town.
Yeah.
We are really fortunate. Hooksett does have a lot. They have
Very much.
5 or 6 that do transportation, but they're all over the place in what they provide for programs and what their relationship is with the public sector.
Yes.
Some talk way more with the public sector than others. So to educate the parents on quality preschool
That's it.
and what it should look like.
That's it. And so I think that right now is my concern because I, again, want to move my daughter to the half-day program. But I would be switching her childcare. She's been there since she was 12 weeks old. And so if the district and the SAU could get together and put their name out there or educate them on the importance of transporting and offering maybe hand in hand with that program, it would work out a little better. So just consistency wise.
I'm curious what, I was at the last year's event, when everything had to get zeroed out, and it was interesting. And I'm wondering, you guys work with the budget committee to make sure that doesn't happen again? Like, obviously, nobody wants that outcome. I'm just wondering, is it an adversarial relationship, or, you know?
I would say,
Well, I was just gonna jump in, because I think that caught us all off guard, because what we were being guided to believe was that we could still submit, I forgot what it was called, something, so that it could still go on the ballot. And it was very, but I mean, just to the school board, it left us very little time, and then it appeared as if we were scrambling, but when legal says you can do something, you assume you can do it.
you know, it's actually, we had two differing opinions in the same law office about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so,
So.
I didn't know how much.
And even if we were to have not done what we've done, there were all these like, dominoes that needed to fall in line.
Oh, sure.
Right, so it had like, we gotta get something to the legislature, all kinds of crazy stuff, and it's like, you know, the more convoluted you make it, the more it looks like, everybody's like, you know, like who shot Kennedy type deal, right? It's everybody
Well,
else
I
is
don't-
looking
I
for some
don't-
kind of story, like, oh my God, someone did a backhand thing and
Yeah.
whatever.
I don't mean it that way.
Yeah, no,
I
No,
just
but
mean
I
in
think
terms
it
of
would've-
they voted against it.
No, but I think that
You
that
mean-
evening would have gone differently had we had time to prepare and then go to the budget committee. Because they see us out of nowhere saying, well, we should zero this, well, why? Okay, well, if nobody will zero this, then let's move it so that we can at least operate for the year.
But I was
So
thinking
it was-
before all that, you know, when they originally voted against the measure, you know, how are we going to prevent that sort of thing? Like, not everything that happened afterward, I'm just saying, are you working with them to, you know, for something that they will approve as well?
Adam's the budget rep.
And I remember you there last year, but I don't know if you remember that I said that I would promise to create a subcommittee. We created the subcommittee this year between the school board and the budget committee. We met twice over the summertime to try to iron out the differences before deliberative session would happen.
Okay.
So that we could be on the same page. Is there something that they would like from us that's different? Is there something that we would like them to do differently? It worked out, I think, perfectly so far, and we'll see, but we have a new superintendent, a new business person. So that timing of starting the subcommittee, meeting with these new folks that are doing things for us, I still think it will be a little bit of a learning process because there is a deep history, I think, between the school board and the budget. I don't think there necessarily needs to be. Greg started it before me and kind of started to mend the fences with these two groups. We're slowly getting there. I think we're bending a lot. We're trying to make a lot of efforts. We're extending a big olive branch. Hopefully it'll be reciprocated, but I think we've done a lot of things to make sure that that same situation didn't happen last year, that throughout the budget discussions before we get to deliberative session, we've had clear, kind of concise, well thought out discussion with regards to cuts. And then hopefully if some people from this meeting, as we kind of, hopefully Jillian, we can continue this type of thing, when we get closer to votes like that, that we could come to the budget and let them know how important it is. Because the year before it passed, or was recommended by the budget committee, last year it wasn't essentially the same project, same people. But I think sometimes by having people from the community there as well would be helpful. But to answer, long answer, but I think as a school board have made a really huge effort to redo a lot of things that we've done for 10 plus years, to start a whole new process to make it easier and more transparent for everyone here, but also for the budget committee, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and in no way am I suggesting that, you know, you guys haven't.
No, but I think in the past
I know how hard it is to get stuff done in this town.
I think in the past, if I'm just gonna be totally transparent, I think in the past, there was such deep rooted history that things didn't get done the best they could. But I think with a fresh start of Bill and Amy, and some different people in the budget, and Greg and myself, and everyone else trying to say, hey, let's forget the history. Let's kind of work together. I think we can have a better budget year this year. I who knows? I mean, maybe not, but we put in a ton of effort to make sure it is better.
Yeah, we try, we're flexing a lot.
Yeah.
We can.
I figured that it would have to come up, we were at the rather the other end.
Yeah.
I mean, to their credit, so I think the biggest grind that that budget committee has is like we end up every year, it's really hard to dial in, especially at the toughest, right? Dial in on, because we got a kid move to town that maybe has to go to private school for the blind, so only get ratings, which is very expensive. And we're responsible, just in case, so everybody doesn't know, for kids that have special ed, we're responsible for when they're 3 to when they're 21. So that's why we're talking about Christine, talking about the local businesses in town. Because again, we're obligated to provide services to those kids. So they did, to their credit, always say, and Jim will back this up, but the budget committee said, look, if stuff doesn't pass and you're short on money and then you have budget surplus at the end of the year, please take care of safety items, right? So like this last year, we did a lot of stuff with the budget surplus at the end of the year that we didn't do in that budget year. And had to do with safety, it's almost like walkie-talkies and communications and different things. So I think their biggest issue is, again, is with the surplus at the end of the year, but it isn't like that money gets spent, it goes back to the voters, right? So it is what it is, and actually we had a study done, we had a accounting firm brought in, and basically we're in line with every other district in the area, a similar size, so there's not much we can do. I mean, we're trying to get, with Bill coming in better and better, as far as getting the budget that you put out there should be your best take at what you think things are gonna cost. But again, it's better obviously to have a surplus than a deficit, because remember, that's what happens. So, yeah, so it's always a balancing act, and again, we're trying to put our best foot forward. And it is nice, again, I mean, both Phil and Karen had like their great things that they did, and then obviously, no one's perfect, right? So Bill and Amy bring a different perspective, and come at things a little bit differently, which has been a good thing, it's been kind of refreshing, and just coming at it differently, and, organizing things differently, and utilizing the software differently for the accounting software that we use and those type of things. So anyway, I think it's all moving in the right direction, and hopefully things stay on that stereo, that would be nice.
Just one follow-up to Phil's point, with that study that we did, the audit, it wasn't a popular decision. We made a
I
decision
voted no.
to audit our own people, which is never a great thing to feel like you're being audited by the people you work with. But it ended up being a really good thing because, to Phil's point, it showed a bunch of different school districts, budgets similar, bigger, smaller, and we were right in line with that. And that was an outside audit group that we normally don't use. So it was not a popular thing, but it ended up to be a really good thing.
And it wasn't like there was any fraud, just to look and see what things were going and how we stacked up against other districts.
Is that public knowledge, the audit, for like people to look at just to see comparison?
I think it's on the website.
Is it on the website? I'm just curious, like, it'd be interesting to see the breakdowns of teacher salaries in other districts and then the sped budget and everything.
Well, it was, the main goal was to determine whether our fund balance surplus was out of whack with
So you weren't looking
other
at specific
communities.
departments?
So,
Oh, okay.
So it turned
I was
out
just
that,
curious.
as
You
I
said
said,
audit your.
so if we
numbers.
were averaging, say $800,000 of surplus because of different things.
Yeah.
Was that out of whack with others? And it wasn't. But there is, you can, on the Department of Education website, you can actually break it down into a lot of different points. So you can compare cost per pupil, high school costs, and more defined on the Department of Ed website.
Yeah, I was just curious if it was broken down by department, just to see if we're overspending in certain areas or underspending, so.
one of the things that was brought up in our discussions with the budget committee is that they kept bringing up, you're always, say, 800 to 1.3 million over. And if that seems to be excessive, and I was the one that was like, maybe, and I was the one that suggested the audit, just to look at that, to see if we were out of whack. And it came back that we're right in line with everybody else, as far as where they are with fund balance.
That sounds like a couple, especially with sped being a big line item that's unpredictable, it sounds like you almost have to stay ahead of it. If you have one unexpected student move into town with serious needs, you have to be able to cover it.
Yeah.
And there is actually a special education fund, there's a fund, it's a fund. And so we actually populated a trust fund some years ago that does give you, I think there's an underage or overage, however you want to say it, access to funds, but it's very specific on what you can move for, et cetera, so it's very binding. So And that's part of the thing with all the olive branch. So during the meeting last year, someone came up and there was a vote made, and so money came out of the budget, right? I think it was about $300,000, I remember, right? And so Adam actually made a motion to put back in half of that. Again, because we're trying to work with the budget committee and say, hey, listen, so we'll put half back in and we'll make some changes to the budget and see how it comes at the end of the year. So, trying our best.
And actually, if I'm not mistaken, too, that audit suggested that we actually bump that up too to what we have to, was it 600?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, because right now one kiddo could wipe that out.
Yeah. So it was good to learn that too.
Well, look, we have unspent funds because we can't fill positions. So the paras, we're always looking, and the economy's good, right? It's like,
That's actually one of the questions we have online is why is there a current, someone is asking why is there a current shortage of paras at the middle school?
short everywhere.
The short
That's
everywhere.
across the state.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it's not just that profession, it's every profession.
right.
No matter where you look,
I'm
everybody's got.
Yeah. I know, I'm in education, we can't find teachers, can't find paras.
So great for work, recruits.
I do recruiting for a living for accounting and finance, and it's probably the most difficult time right now to find people. You know, I'm trying to place an accounting clerk for $13 an hour, and somebody can go to McDonald's and get paid $18 an hour, work whatever hours they want, and they're gonna pay for some of their college. Flip burgers and get a college degree, or go work as an accounting clerk and make $13 an hour.
It's gotten into his motivational trips to like Aruba, Mexico.
Oh, well, in that case, sign tomorrow.
But for the paras, I think we have a lot of part-time positions. Have we thought about bumping some of those to full-time and offering benefits to attract people to those positions? I mean,
Like what position are you talking about?
a lot of the paras I know, specific to the middle school, I don't know if you know, at Underhill, are part-time. They don't actually even have a full lunch break. If they choose to take a lunch, they don't get paid for that period of time. So that's not a very desirable position to many people, understandably. So if you can't get benefits, you don't get paid a lunch break during your time. And I think paras have some of the toughest jobs in education. They can deal with some really challenging students, some of whom can become physically aggressive or verbally abusive at times. And it's difficult to keep people in positions like that, especially with a good economy, where they can find, jobs for similar pay and better benefits where maybe they feel a little bit better about themselves at the end of the day.
I've got one of those children, and that's what they hear is when they've gotten, they've gone through school, they've gotten their full degree, they go work for someplace where it's private, and get a lot more money doing it.
Right.
And they totally know that for a country in the budget.
Well, I think everybody does. I mean,
Yeah.
you need a chance to feel like you can decompress, especially when, even if you're just dealing with students who have more academic challenges, you need a lot of patience to get through that, and you need a little step back sometimes to say, okay, we're going to go back and we're going to try to tackle this with a different approach, and those types of things. That mental respite is huge, regardless of the child's disability that you're working with, in my opinion. So I think that's part of the challenge. I know in talking with parents in the past, they feel like not valued.
Has there ever been paras to get, benefits or like the state? I know I used to teach in Manchester, and I know the Manchester paras got,
Same in there.
health insurance or could go into the retirement. Because honestly, I want to be a para at Underhill, but when my kids are ready to go, but it's not really desirable for me because I don't really want to go back into the classroom, but then I can't even put away back to the pension, which I still belong to, or insurance, So it's one of those things, has it ever been and it just got taken away, or how is it in Hooksett?
So I know that there is, speaking from.
Say, ask a teacher.
Speaking from like the union aspect of it, as like the former president and stuff like that, I do know that the parents do have a separate association, which but I know some parents are grandfathered into it, correct me if I'm wrong, Mary Ann, where they do have insurance and other paras are not grandfathered into it. So I know certain positions like kindergarten, aides are given insurance because they are considered full-time employees. Whereas paras that work for the special education department, unless they've been there, they've been grandfathered in, when those people leave, they hire somebody and they hire them just for the amount of hours that will not qualify them for insurance benefits. So that does make it less desirable, and I agree with what Nicole said, you know, those are the people that are dealing with the children that need the most support. You know, they're there as a support for the child, and there is support for the teacher as well. So I do see the frustration for that. That is something that, like, they have to negotiate, but I think it's something that the town needs to be aware of. That I don't think that a lot of times, I think they do have the hardest paying job, and I think they're overlooked, and I think it's because it's not vocalized about their positions and what their responsibilities are. So the town doesn't realize it's an issue, and I think we would become more desirable if we could offer full-time benefits, or give them maybe a higher bump in pay. You know, it means that we could get people that, because the people that are doing it, they love their jobs and they're so good at their jobs, but, you know,
They also, the turnover is high enough that it affects the students themselves.
I agree.
Quite a bit. It throws them back a good month when it has to switch parents sometimes.
yeah, it does, yeah. So it's hard, you know, we're losing some of these great people that need to go to another district because they get a little bit more money or benefits, and you can't blame them. You can't, like, it's not their fault. They have to do what's best for their families, so.
And when someone leaves, you then need to train their replacement. And so that takes more time and more learning. And so again, it comes back to the kids, and the kids are the ones that are suffering because of it. And the community, and the school community. I mean, your school community, as you guys know, with teachers and with kids, when it's constantly turning over like that, you can't build a solid foundation.
Yeah.
And so that's important.
And I argue that foundation is what makes the rest of our district so great.
Very much.
We have a really good school system, and a lot of it is due to the fact that it's pretty consistent.
Anita, could you, sorry for asking, but you said for paras for kindergarten,
Yes.
they're considered full-time,
Yes.
but the need is the special education, which I agree is so important to have consistency that we all talked about, because every pair is important, but I think even special ed, the one-to-one attention, and that person not being there or changing is even more disruptive to that particular student, but the rest of how that student affects the rest of the school. You know, so I didn't know that about the kindergarten.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious, do other people in
Yes.
other towns or around New Hampshire do special ed paras, do they get benefits any?
Yeah, Manchester.
Yes.
I'm in
Yes.
Merrimack as well, I teach in Merrimack.
I taught in Manchester, and the more specialized child you were working with, the more money you got as a para. And
you have
you
different
did get,
levels.
and you got, you know, it's hourly wherever you go, and that's where the paras get hosts, because it's an hourly position versus a salary position. So they don't get summers or weeks or holidays, they gotta figure out another way, something else to do. But yes, a lot of districts have terra pay, however they put that, or leveled pay, depending on who you're working with.
And based on experience as well, they have pair 1, pair 2. And that has to do with pay as well.
I know my mom works, she's a para in Nashua. And I believe she has all those benefits and stuff, too. I don't know exactly which, and then I know she has paid holidays and stuff.
Another way that can be sold too is when, there is disruption because someone leaves or for whatever reason. That doesn't just affect that student, that affects all the other students because that student is then much more disruptive in the classroom, whether they want to be or not. Suddenly their relationship has been disrupted and it pulls the rug out from under them, and it totally affects the other kids.
Also, when you don't have them there full-time, I'm thinking about my middle school experience, you might have a student that comes in for the day, they're greeted by one para who helps them at their locker and gets started. Then the para that's with them most of the day comes in, and you have that transition. But they leave in the afternoon and somebody else comes in. some of these kids cannot handle a transition of personnel 3 or 4 times a day. It's just, it's not in their makeup.
Well, that's why they have a parent.
Right, because they need it, right? So, and obviously, you know, it's a stressful situation, it's hard to find people and that kind of thing. But the detriment that it does to the kids, I think, is really high. And I think that that should be a cause for concern across the board, whether you're a special education parent or a regular education parent, because it does, as you say, it impacts all the kids.
It's not automatic.
Gosh,
My
no.
son, you know, there have been some that he works really well with, and there are some where it's like, you would be better off if you were in another room, I think. You know, and you can see when they switch it off, you can see the difference in his day just by those relationships. So the more you switch it, the more, you know, the more chance you're gonna have that. But you also need the option of, you know, if this isn't working out with this person, we need to be able to.
Well, with all the focus on the social emotional learning now, consistency is key. And like you said, it's not just for one student, it's for all of them. And when your mind may be so out of control, the fact that you don't even have control over being able to build one relationship and have that one stable person throughout your day, that's concerning. That's concerning for even a little one, you know, that sometimes a para or a teacher, but specifically a para, might be the one stable thing they have.
All these kids are dealing with a 40-year-old with anxiety.
Very much.
Yeah.
So,
Very much.
yes.
Yeah.
I don't think any of us disagree.
Yeah.
At all, you know, I certainly have been in the classrooms too. Our role on school board is not personnel,
Right.
but we can certainly push the button, ask the questions, you know, see if we can find some kind of balance.
Where is that button? Just because, I mean, in terms of,
You'll find it pretty.
I was wondering if a community effort can be made to get behind that push as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably something that has to be built into a budget, you know, from the superintendent, but I think if you ask, you know, send emails, ask questions.
Some of it's also contract negotiations.
And it's
as well.
contract for sure.
It has to be a contract
And they just
negotiation.
went through it last
They just
year,
went
right?
through it.
But did, so
Last
for
year.
probably 3 years.
Yeah.
You can see something like that also not passing unless we really
Yeah.
got people invested in it.
Well, yeah, that's the hardest part.
My kids don't.
Is getting people behind things so that they don't worry about the dollars, right? So it always comes down to the same thing. You get people that show up to everything and say no to everything. And then people have certain things that, I mean, I think probably almost all of us, right? So I'm on the zoning board too, and the reason why you get on it is because you see things are screwed up and you say, well, I gotta jump in and try to help, right? So that's what happens with a lot of people too, like maybe they have one issue, like a special education issue or something like that. So I would petition you guys to, like, when some seats come up, get on the board. If you have a specific issue that you're really passionate about, that's the best way to do it. And they say, obviously, we put some leverage on the superintendent, we're gonna stay with boys. But again, to that point, it's like, he's in charge of the staff, like the CEO, right? So, and I mean, Greg's been involved with the negotiations of all the different contracts and that type of stuff, but I think it probably needs to start there. Again, it's noted that, like, big concern, like, we had a bunch of people came last meeting about busing. So we're dealing with that right now, which everybody's heads are shaking. So I'm looking at that. So yeah, I mean, the only way we know things are happening is kind of they bubble up. I mean, because again, we don't want to be racked with everything on social media. I mean, I mention that all the time. It's like, there's a certain course, like people sometimes like pick up on the phone, go on and say all kinds of stuff online, but they officially never hear about it. Like Bill doesn't get a call, Randy doesn't get a call.
And they don't show up to vote.
So,
I mean, prior to this night being organized, the number of parents who commented on any number of posts, how many showed up?
Well, that's what I was gonna actually say, like, what do you need from parents? I mean, we can go back out to them and say, because I know I had emailed you guys, and sorry I didn't respond back to someone, about the kindergarten being full-time. I have a 3-year-old, but I also have an 8 and a 5-year-old. Like, what do you need from us? Like, I know I can't be involved too much, but like, what can I do to help? Like, because I got like a neighbor to watch my kids tonight, because I knew I needed to be here, but what else can I do or to put out the word to help parents that, you know, can't maybe show up to the meeting, not trying to make excuses, but to just help everyone.
Like you're saying, somebody that has like an initiative that they want brought up, or just in general, building about the school board?
What are
I mean, you can watch it on video.
Yeah.
The meetings are all televised.
Yeah.
So if someone kind of wants to know, they can always stop there. But I know totally how it is. I mean, when my kids were little, my wife worked nights, right? And then I was watching the kids, so I get it. It's just tough again to get people to turn out, I think, especially when they all have small kids. like you guys do.
And I think right now, what we need to know is what direction.
That's what
We
you
have
say that for.
our ideas and opinions, but if we don't know the community cares about it, then I'm not gonna push with just I
Yeah.
want, because that doesn't make any sense.
What are some
So-
of the bigger items facing the school board? Like, you know, what are you guys working, so I'm sure you guys are working a couple years ahead, like looking down the road. You know, high school choice, for example, probably started 5 years before it actually came up. Like, what are some of the things that are on the shorter or longer term radar of the school board?
I just wanted to say, like whenever, like say for Full-Day K, we want to get a plan together,
Yeah.
and we start getting the word out, it's grassroots, it's like
Okay.
you're knocking on your neighbor's doors and it's telling
And
people.
I don't mind doing that, I love to
Yeah.
talk, so.
Yeah.
I
Travel.
can justify to that at the bus
People
stop
travel
and
for
stuff.
work and they can't always get there to vote, but you can do an absentee ballot
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Like you have to get everyone in your community, everyone in your circle out and involved, or that's where we need you all the time, but that's when we really, really need people.
But I
That works really
to
well.
jump-
I'm sorry, Matt.
To jump on that, I know a couple of years ago, Marion, we offered, remember that? We offered babysitting, the
Yeah.
HEA offered babysitting for parents, so that way they could come to the deliberative, they could vote. Maybe that's something that, like, the PTA works with the HEA, and we work with the school board to provide that, so that way we can, like, if they know in advance, you know, like, if you bring your kids, supervised or adults, teachers, or even the Builders Club, if they need hours, or NHS, or whatever, however that works, they can help come watch the kids, play fun games with them, but then that way parents can come, know that they're safe in the building, and they can get a chance to vote, or at least be a part of the process and hear what they're maybe using absentee ballot for, so.
What's the date for voting?
It's March, it's usually like the first week in March.
It is a collaborative effort. It is a collaborative effort, and Kara's right. When I got involved in all this during the Pinkerton,
So I was gonna say, Greg was our webmaster.
Yeah,
And my wife was a
so-
fact finder, so I mean, that's how it started. And then we had meetings with
Phil's wife and I sat down, she provided me with all the facts, I built the website, started posting it out there, and that's how we got the facts out about Pinkerton and Manchester and all the numbers. And that's why I got involved in all this. Now, obviously, I'm on board, but I wasn't back then. It takes somebody taking some time and working with the school board to help.
In the same vein as you were saying, getting people on board, is there any sort of social media presence that you have or anything like that? Because I'm not aware of it. That's
Well, I'm so fancy on the computer.
And is that something that you could use help with too? Where,
That's the other thing, you can follow the school board on Facebook,
On
or on
Facebook.
Twitter. and on
If
Instagram.
anybody would like to give me advice, feel free.
but that's the kind of thing that we can help
PTA
with
does
as well.
share their stuff on
Yeah, that's
Facebook, and
the-
they share our stuff on
Yeah,
Facebook.
Exactly, it's shared,
Right.
so
Yeah.
it goes out, you can share that, and it goes out to your network.
I mean, that's something that
On Facebook, though.
Yeah, Facebook is sort of on the decline, it's
Yeah.
more Twitter, Instagram.
Or even just like, I just like wanting more emails, don't even know when the vote
Just
is.
have the- just have the kids do it. So to answer your question, so actually, I don't say we're, right now, the biggest thing I think we're, in the next few weeks, we're gonna have to deal with is, what are we gonna do about the kindergarten thing this year? So that's actually, it's gonna be input from you guys, because again, so it's been on 2 years now, and somebody mentioned I volunteer, somebody again, so we really haven't had people clamoring for it, to be truthful with you, like the last couple of years, and I think we got accused a little bit of trying to shove it down the town's throat, and we thought we were doing a good thing, you know what I mean? So that's, part of it is like, you kind of need, I'll say groundswell, but to know that people are kind of behind it, and then it doesn't look like we're the only ones that
I
support
think
it.
it's a minority that are against it, to be
I
honest.
would-
I would agree with their.
Everyone, that's what's going crazy right now. The couple of, one was para, one is full day kindergarten, is it happening for 2020?
Right.
And the other one is, when is the high school being built? What's the construction
In
timeline for the high
1890.
school?
So I started in Hooksett in 2000 on the police department. I was told then I was gonna come to town.
Still waiting for it.
So Jim can probably remember this, and I probably don't remember, because again, you get involved at different times, right? So before my wife and I had kids, it was just the two of us, and we were probably skiing and doing fun stuff, and weren't really involved in anything going on in town, right? And so they had the opportunity with St. Mary's is that whole
Right.
property up there, right? For short money, and it went down by a couple of those, just like you're talking about with the kindergarten. So that would have been beautiful sports field, high school complex, whatever, and it went down by only a few votes. So, you know, it's like, and now the thing with, again, the whole high school thing, I mean, it would be great, but the other part is like, so we're so small by ourselves, right? Unless we're able to rope in somebody else. So you could offer like the basics in academics, right? Because you're not going to offer a lot of electives because you can't populate the classes. And then there's like the sports thing, like we've been talking with Candia. They had middle school boys, they don't have enough boys to have a baseball team because they're so small. So they had to bring up fifth graders to play on a middle school baseball team so the boys could play, right? So that's the kind of issue you don't want to run into. And we were talking with them, or maybe doing something collaborative with the sports end of it, or, you know, maybe even try to do something with the kids or whatever, because they're shrinking actually, like Candy is shrinking big time. And they have like kids.
Growing up, I went to a cooperative high school where there was 8 very, very small towns
Yeah.
that went to one high school, and, I mean, I had a, you know, I was on the school bus at 6:30 but so were the Pinkerton kids. So, you know, have they ever explored the option of grouping all of those smaller surrounding towns?
So one time I was talking Candy and Hooksett, they were talking about doing high school. Mary Ann remembers.
I'm not even in town for 2 years, so.
That would have been the March, it's the second Tuesday in March, so it's March 10th. That's the all-day voting. I mean, it's important to go to the deliberative session, but with the number of people at the deliberative session, which is maybe 40 people, it doesn't take a lot of presence to get a change, where a couple of years ago, because of the surplus concern, there was a cut of $1 million. So with like 23 people, we were able to put that money back. The high school cooperative was discussed in 2000, 2001 with Auburn and Candia. Of course, the thought of high school here, there was actually, right after this building was built in 1962, the original one, there was plans to make that. There was high school discussion in 1963. Then 1960.
Jim, were you on the board back then?
No. So actually, but the addition that they proposed back in 62 actually was smaller than the addition that is here. And then it went to 1968, 1972, and then so forth, and then I got to the point of we want to build our own high school, correctly because of control, and it came to, well, what are you going to do differently than currently in Manchester or whatever? And then there was a need for more of a choice. And then because of the choice model, which has cost us a little bit more money, but I think the options we have, wherever they're going, whether it's Pinkerton majority now, Londonderry, a couple of Manchester and so forth, they're all very happy. So, and we have enough, 7 more, I think we at least have 7 more years on this contract with Pinkerton, so.
That was gonna be my question.
So that's where it is, and I think going from a choice model to an individual school, which has the smaller numbers, so if you average about 150 kids in class, we're now about 700, 750 kids. So 750 kid class, the option could not do that.
Our class is
So that's part of the problem too. The smaller schools benefits, but then there's not the choices in the school for programming, which is problematic. So it's.
So moving forward,
Go ahead.
on the high school thing, that's really why we're here, but, and I got a little talk on it earlier, so what I was worried about, we have a 7th grader, and now that I know the 3-year little period's over, I wanted to know what's that mean number-wise or percentage-wise, and for them being able to maybe not go to Pinkerton as the, the default, right? That's the default. Our daughter currently goes to Central. She loves Central. We're fine with Central. But we made that move away from Central, which has good and bad. So for the immediate future, I kind of want to get an idea from you guys, if you know, what the percentage is, if it's a percentage. And I think it was thrown around 60% before. 64 or something around.
63.5%.
So I feel pretty confident that we'll never go below that. Well, it would be pretty hard, because I'm sure that we're sending upwards of 70% of kids to Pinkerton right now. So I think we're pretty safe on that. So for me, selfishly, I think we'll be fine. I think my son will have a choice if he wants. He can go to Pinkerton, he can go to Londonderry. And I don't know if the other choices will stick.
Well, yeah,
But-
so.
Because I know there's Bow, Goffstown, and there's Manchester will accept any of the Manchester schools will accept our kids.
So we lined up the contracts to expire at the same time, right? So the MOUs are good for 5 years. The Pinkerton is good for 10. It's your 63 point, how much, Jim? 2.26, something like that.
Yes.
So again, so I guess the thing to keep in mind is your point. Like, so far we've been really good as far as like what kids have chosen where. I'll tell you, the one thing that we've noticed since we've had more choices is less kids go to private school. Like if you notice, Trinity's actually hurting for kids, which is sad because it's a great school. But again, kids aren't going to like BG and these other places. They still are, a few of them, but much less than when there were issues like with Manchester and stuff. So we had talked a lot of this year about what we're actually working on that policy right now. If the crap hit the fan and we didn't have enough kids to go to Pinkerton. And so I guess the thing that you want people to keep in mind is, and again, it's like the things that get out there and published, so it's a limited choice model, right? So we're not guaranteed, we don't have to send kids to any of the MOU. Those agreements have a max number, but no minimum number, right? So for instance, Londonderry's max number is 40, right? And I think last year, more kids went than that because, they asked them because some extra kids wanted to go, et cetera. But that was actually a mistake in reality because we were actually thinking we might have been really close this year. And again, we have to, make some kids, honestly, make some kids, but kids when we get their first choice because it just is what it is. And the only option to the Pinkerton thing is you pay the tuition and don't send the kid, right? So who wants to pay 12 or 13 grand and just get nothing for their money and then you're paying 12 or 13 grand for the kid to go elsewhere? So, anyway, so yeah, there's no minimum numbers in any of those agreements, so we're not forced to send any kids to anywhere. We don't have any minimum numbers, and again, we've got a minimum number contract with Pinkerton, but Manchester has no minimum, Bow has no minimum, Pembroke has no minimum, Londonderry has just max. So, I mean, and this year actually, like I said, we're in good shape, and I mean, it is, I'm gonna say it's sad, again, obviously we had a great relationship with Manchester for a bunch of years, but the last couple of years, how many kids picked Manchester? Like 2 or 3.
Yeah, no, I think my
Yeah,
daughter's
so
class was
people
the
choose
last
with their
big
feet,
one.
you know what I mean? And it's like, so in reality, I think where we went was the right thing because if people are having choice to go and they're not going to something.
Well, the only issue with Londonderry and Pinkerton as the 2 main schools, as we found out early on in our daughter's high school career, is when the realization of social life at a high school comes into play, those 2 schools are really horrible choices because they're very far away. So if your daughter plays soccer and you finish the soccer practice and she doesn't drive yet, and you gotta go pick her up at Londonderry or Pinkerton, bring her home, shower, then go back to get her back to the football game, and then go pick her up again after the football game. You just did 2 hours of driving for your daughter to go to a football game. And if she goes to the old stadium football game, it's way easier. So I would say for the future, it won't affect my kids because my kids will be aged out of that, but for the future, this town does need a high school of its own, and it cannot be just Hooksett. It needs to be SAU 15's high school. And I'm pretty surprised because I grew up in New York and this stuff was just done.
Right.
Like I went to a regional school with 5 towns and there was no talk of it. It's just, you do it because that's what New York says. You guys are going to school together and that's what happens. I'm surprised that in New Hampshire that live for your die, I guess, so you have a choice to not do it. So, but that's like, it needs to be somewhat, I think, because it's a great town and it would just be a shame to have too small a school to let it shine, I guess. And I think that's what would happen if it was just Hooksett. So hopefully in the future, I know it may not be you guys specifically, but the board does get some sort of a high school thing figured out with Candy and Auburn and whoever else.
So I think a couple of things, probably not tonight. We need to get into the budget first, but because if we have 7 years on the contract, we can't just ignore those in hopes that we'll come up with a high school. But we also, if people are really passionate about a high school and trying to figure out how to make that work, 2 things have to happen. people need to get on board to make sure our contracts are ready to renew in 7 years, and that we like how everything's being done, and then somebody needs to brainstorm how we could successfully, yeah.
My understanding too is the state isn't helping out anymore.
No, that's right, that's.
Like, they used, it was like, it used to be like, here's half the cost.
It was like 40%, I think, Jim, remember how much it was, the state kick, I think it was like 40%.
We lost that years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised that they haven't gone to more of Vermont where they're consolidating SAUs.
But I mean, even
I'm wondering
though
if
this
New
age,
Hampshire.
it's like, Auburn tried to get out of the SAU in the last couple of years.
That's right.
And actually, we do a better.
Auburn tried to go up.
And trying to do stuff to work all together.
Like have their own school?
You know, share resources.
Well, they have their own school, they don't know part of our business.
India folks.
Yeah,
like West
but they're
Hollywood,
happy to
and
be
then Auburn kind of like-
Oh.
So, yeah, I mean, it was actually,
Then they
the
want
plan was
to-
originally to have all these sounds. Right. And it just. I would love to see it too, but if you need other kids, just.
No, I don't think it would be enough, unless, but that, to your point, the classes are shrinking.
Right.
Part of the reason they're shrinking, because part of the reason this town was growing for a while was the rumors were big that the high school was coming. And people were just
But in
flocking.
fairness, every high school in
Yeah.
New Hampshire is shrinking.
It's the birth
Yeah.
rate, the birth rate's gone
Yeah,
down.
just the number of kids in the school system is shrinking. We see it all the way K through 8. Every single class is smaller every year, one after the other.
And I don't.
And one of the other challenges that's created by the 3 towns, and we've talked about this internally, but the problem with the 3 towns is we're on 3 different year cycles for the contract with
Yeah.
Pinkerton.
I know.
So to get that to line up,
I know.
you gotta get Pinkerton
Who's
on
gonna
board
make
to
the
let
list?
somebody kind of move, and the odds of them doing that are long.
And from what I understand, no one's built a high school since the state stopped funding.
No one can afford
So
that.
it's not
Plus,
even,
you have to think about the land.
yeah.
You
So
know, there's a lot
We
of
can't get a
protected
$4 million
land,
project
there's a lot of
fast,
real
let alone
estate.
50 million.
Believe it or not,
We have
we
land.
have
but it
land
has
that's been
so
donated,
many
it's not even
species on it,
walkable,
so-
or buildable, so, go ahead, I know you.
I just wanted to circle back, and I don't want to end the high school conversations if you're not done it.
Oh, no, I'm good.
Just back to full day kindergarten that I was listening to over here. So I recently read an article, and I'm not sure if it's true or not, but I'm assuming it is, that there are 167 districts in our state that have full day K. I've been watching what's happening in Derry. They're getting something going for full day K. Londonderry's got something going full day K. Merrimack just paradise, we're in their second year.
Yeah.
And I
We
mean,
Milford and Medfield.
yeah, so and I was doing some research on Pembroke had full day K with busing. I think I saw,
Concord has it.
is it not Suncliff, Allenstown had full day K. So I'm looking at us and I'm saying, how come we don't have full day K yet? So I know in May, or maybe it was in April, one of the board meetings, there was discussion doing the steering committee. So I didn't know if that was started, if you were doing anything with teachers, parents, creating a committee to do some kind of grassroots work. Just kind of wanted to see where that was at, but everybody around us seems to be getting full day K, and I feel like we're kind of stuck.
Yeah, out of the box.
So we all-
One of the questions I asked last year was, on a percentage basis, it was like 75% of the districts in New Hampshire.
Is it that high?
Yeah.
So I asked the question, what is it, what is it?
As well
I
as
think
I'm
that-
upset because
I feel like-
kids in kindergarten, because Bethel has the K-class and then Merrimack has the full day.
They're ramping that up. There's probably a lot we could do to give kind of a push with regards to that, at least in terms of putting the word out and saying, here's a clear, concise, what's going on. We can put it on our website, we can put it on Facebook, and host more events like this where we specifically talk about it. But then, we can also say, this is what you need to do to make it happen. Go to this thing, and really spell it out for people. Because I think there's a lot of people who want to know, who just, either they're not hearing it through your channel, or they don't know, or whatever, and the more we can broadcast that, and the more people who are broadcasting, the more it'll penetrate.
Like we talked about the bus. So being in the school system, I feel like there is a lot of side conversations that are happening on soccer fields, that are happening at like for example, Boy Scouts or the PTA, like, it seems to be like the game of telephone, like, one person starts over here, and somehow the conversation changes, and then one person starts over here, and then two people get together and like, that's not what I heard, that's not what I heard. I think there needs to be one person being the spokesperson if we're going to push for full-day kindergarten, and it needs to be the same consistent message, because I think like what you said, Derek, about the minority of people that don't want full-day K, I think they don't understand it. I think that their thoughts behind it are, if we push for a full-day kindergarten, it's going to be strictly academics the whole day. I don't think they understand that there is going to be a play-based aspect to it, I'm assuming. I look at Mary, I'm like, but I think a lot of people are afraid that their kids are gonna be, they're not gonna be babies anymore, they're not gonna get that play, and they're not gonna get that socialization piece. And I've heard that from parents on the soccer field, that yes, they would support the town, but they're worried that their children are gonna be getting like rigorous academics all day, and they still want them to be babies, which I absolutely agree, but I don't think they understand what a full-day kindergarten would look like. And I think that's something that needs to be needs to be presented to parents, so that they're not afraid of it, and they're not thinking that their babies are going to come to school and be doing algorithms by the time they go to nursery. Like,
You bring up
I
a
mean,
good
I
point.
just
I think one of the things, like, when we go to do the advertising, obviously, if you will, or the marketing, right? That's something that we need to look at, is how it's presented again. We have done educational nights to educate parents. Much like this is probably how many people should.
Not even.
it's hard.
And 7 of them were board members. So we did make the effort, and I understand working parents, some work different shifts, you can't always be there, and I get that. But in order to really push this, really gotta
Walker,
get
I
it.
think because that was bundled with the addition, at my end, people were so confused. It
Yep.
was
The addition is in
That's
the
what-
kindergarten classrooms.
They weren't seeing kindergarten, they were coming to about
Kindergarten.
building,
Renovation.
and so they were a little
People didn't
confused,
understand.
to Anita's point. So I think
This is where we need your help.
Yeah.
You're the ears, so let us know, like, what is.
So there was also too, always, every time there's a misinformation machine out there. There was one out there last time. I won't name any names. But, so a couple things. What I don't understand about the whole aspect of it, because to be frank with you, right? So if you look at any of the studies they have, they say by the time the kid hits 8th grade, whatever benefit educationally they get from full day is gone. You know what I mean? So take that aside. As far as, because at the younger age, obviously, it's much better to have a full day. But the other part is, I would think it'd be a no-brainer for parents, again, that with most people, it's working people, where like, you wouldn't have to gerrymander doing the half-day thing. It's like, we had to switch for both of my kids. We had to find somebody else to swap. You know what I mean? So that aspect of it alone, where nowadays it's really two working parents most times in some way. You know what I mean? It's like, I would think it would be a no-brainer. But also too, just keep in mind, so last year this was 4.2 million, this year might be 5 million.
So what are the rules, basically, if you're trying to get the correct information out there? What are the, because I assume that there are rules, that you can only say so much without steering.
So we can't do
What are the
electioneering, is what that's.
That's exactly what
Right,
yeah.
so yeah, I mean, basically, there's limitations on, like the things, we can put out information, but we can't go out and like be proactive, like trying to sway people, creating like brochures and those type of things, so.
But we.
Yeah, so we can say,
But
you can say things like the deliberative session is on this date, but you can't say, vote for full-day kindergarten, because that's, yeah.
But
If
if
you
you
say
guys
the
have
deliberative
questions,
session
like,
will be discussed.
you're at the soccer field and you're hearing things that don't make sense, just call us.
Yeah.
Email any
So
one of us,
parents can join you
anytime.
at your house and visit with all of your friends.
There you go.
But we cannot,
As a board.
as,
Why do I?
so can I ask, from you guys, I mean, obviously, we've already stated, we think full day kindergarten is very important. We also, when we started this a couple of years ago, felt it would be best to keep our pre-K through second in the same building. How outside the box, I mean, there's, I guess, do we want to educate the public enough to know why we need the renovations to fit the students? Do we want to explore
Other districts
regional
have.
schools?
I want to say
elsewhere?
Fernandari, and I could be quoting wrong, and it was Merrimack, the PTA sponsored their kindergarten, and it was in a separate building. I think if people want kindergarten and want full day, they'll be happy if they physically have it. I don't think it needs to be at Underhill. That playground does not sell that building as a fun full-day
It was
kindergarten.
going to
class.
be fun once the renovations happened.
If only the town had a building that was big enough and already was a school at one point, that we could use
I'm
for
a
a school.
former senior employee, and that building is less than
Serious?
50% capacity.
Okay, well, that's.
And-
No, it was a good idea.
Clearly, we talked about it.
Put all our children in there all day.
The town hall is all ADA out of compliance, though. It needs a
So-
huge rehaul.
It's full of asbestos, but that's cool for the town.
Yeah, and it's not ADA,
Years ago,
it's,
on a long-range planning committee, we would go back to neighborhood schools. So I know Dr. Littlefield, I was on the committee with him, and he was looking at 2 K through 5s. And thought it was easier to do that than to do a big addition. We have to do some retrofitting here, I believe the outcome was, because there was no 1,000 square foot rooms. However, Merrimack has tiptoed around that, and I inquired, and I don't believe the rooms were 1,000 square feet, but if you look at the law, which I'm not familiar with, they have this like common space or some open space that they can say they use in their program. So I think there's ways around doing this. I'm not savvy what they are. I don't even know what they are. But I have been in these buildings and I'm like, they're old, like underground. And I'm like,
Of course,
how
we
can
also
they get
have-
a full vacay and not have 1,000 square footage?
could we also roll out one full-day classroom
As a
at a
pilot?
time and try and pilot, do a lottery system, get one up and running, because then
They
we
already love
could
us with the lottery.
make commercials out of it. We could use it to advertise why we need more of it.
But we also at Underhill thing too, we have other things we need to fix. We need to get rid of the portables. So it made sense. That's why the Turner Group went in and said, right, if you need to get rid of these, it would only make sense to do all the work.
Then you could replace the portables
Yeah,
that's
that's-
I'm telling you, it was your plan. Your plan was weird, honestly. You were renovating and you were just making a new, it looked as if you didn't do a lot of research and you just looked at that model you guys put out. Underhill was getting a new library. Because you were now taking that space and retrofitting it to classrooms. The new full-day kindergarten wasn't going in any of the new spaces. There was shrubbery that didn't make sense for New England weather that you knew were gonna get destroyed. Honestly, I wasn't in love with the actual plan.
I
Yes,
guess
but it did, I mean, we had the Turner Group is, yeah.
I think the question is, it sounds like there was a plan, and there was a community that didn't understand the plan, and how do we fix that? That's, to me, there's probably rules about what you can and cannot say to steer, but we don't have those same rules, as far as I know.
I was just
So-
gonna say, I created, while we were sitting here, I created a Hooks and Full Day K group on Facebook. Join it,
Instagram.
and you can push it.
But, I mean,
Like-
I do think that there's maybe in the past not been a partnership to make that happen, because there are certain constraints as a public entity that you have that maybe private groups like the PTA or, you know, the teachers union or whatever other group, the Facebook group, don't have. So how do we fix that? Like, how do we say,
But
this
wasn't-
is the plan, no side conversations, no game of telephone, this is what we're trying to do? Because a lot of the voters might be behind this if they understood it better.
Wasn't the
And how do we
plan
do it in
to
enough
work
time to
for the whole time?
get that out?
The plan's up, right?
I said, and we had multiple sessions, but yeah, I went to a couple of them, with Ben standing up there, like 2 people,
But-
seeing you.
Well,
People are
but
com- people are
if
going
we
to the
know that they
website, though.
can't,
I mean,
I was just
barely
gonna say,
open
I
the
feel like,
email.
what about?
Yeah, but
virtual-
we had
could
public
do a
sessions,
virtual
I was the
town
one
hall?
with
Could
Phil,
we do-
and literally there was 8 people in the room, and I think half of us were from school, so.
So I think we got people that want to volunteer and not help out, and we're gonna.
And they know computers.
Take advantage of this.
Well, you know, Derek and I are both in IT. You know what I mean? Like, if we could do like a virtual town hall, we're streaming this right now. If people can't be here, they could at least get the
We're
information.
recording it.
If we know they're not showing up,
We can stream.
stop trying to make them show up. You know what I mean? Like,
Talk to
maybe
our
there's
IT
another way.
out of it.
Yeah, I love that.
I think the biggest thing too is so getting stuff out and like how it's disseminated, right? So obviously everybody nowadays is on device of some sort, so
Exactly.
That's why we
in
don't like
the share work and
or I like
have
this with all of our board meetings.
tools like on your site, and it's like hard to show people to get there, actually use them and open them. So I don't know, again, whatever, we gotta figure out like what's worked in the past as far as social media wise or whatever, and the things that work best. past and utilize those practices, you know? It's tough when people are going
Like, what we do.
2 extra clicks to get places.
And I think, not to, I just think a lot of people probably don't use the website nowadays, because I just feel like, me personally, like even my son's third grade teacher, she's doing these reminders, and I mostly use the apps or Facebook that I'm getting information there than going to the website. Like, I'm not trying to like sugarcoat or anything, but I just feel like, you make one comment on Facebook, or someone does, like, and then it blows up. You know, like, there was a bus incident, and like, I was like, oh,
137.
like, it was just everyone fired back, so you knew, like, oh, they're coming after you, like, it was gonna be a bunch, and I just feel like it takes one thing, and I think just society now is constantly, if it's not Facebook, it's Twitter, all these other ones that they don't use.
These people wear it all.
Yeah, like, they just.
We should have brought up what people are arguing about Halloween. That was a hot one.
Speaking of Halloween.
About Halloween.
I would say, like you said, it only failed by 6.
The first year, there's a handful of them.
I think
I would just say, if it comes up again and people know that it failed, like you might have to remind people that it failed once. Full-day kindergarten is just such a thing that I think most people assume is going to pass, right? Kind of like Pinkerton's thing was the first time. And I just don't think people turned out because they just thought, I don't need to turn out, it's going to pass in a windfall. I just can't fathom a majority of the town not think, I mean, I'm sure there's people out there that I don't want kindergarten, but most people are going to want it, so I think doing, social media and letting people know is a great idea, but I just can't fathom.
But
What you think about though, right,
now that I know, when it's on there, I will go this time, so it'll be down to 5 people. So I can't hear it go, so we're at 4.
The key to think about here though too is there's also a very big population of elderly people.
Yeah.
They vote.
They are the only ones who show up.
Right.
They are the ones that vote because they'll vote.
Well, then let's have it at town hall, because we know it's not ADA compliant.
That's right. Upstairs.
Well, unfortunately, the people who will say, I'm out of the school system, I don't have family here, it doesn't affect me, I'm not going to pass it.
But if we can get to your point, if we can get more of the younger
We need to let
folks
people
that
know.
have kids in school, or even, I don't have kindergartners, but
That's
I
what
think it's
getting the word
something
out
that
is.
we need.
Yeah.
So we
The
can,
ones that say this is gonna be easy.
Right.
We heard that so many times, and when we were at the high school, so many people came up to the mics and were like, well, I didn't vote, but, and it's like.
I think this is something that we as the PTA need to pick up and really get behind and push too, because, I mean, like you said, it's on the website. We have a lot of stuff on our website too that no one has ever clicked on and no one ever will. And I know, it seems like, and Jill back me up here, it seems like to get people on our site for things like membership or just looking at stuff, we pretty much have to tackle them and load it up on their phones and hand it to them. We even send out emails and half the emails end up in junk, so.
So we tried last year to get behind this warrant article and get it out there, but didn't necessarily get the support of the SAU to help voice this matter. So maybe now with different changing of the guards and things are different, we had created special presses and all kinds of things explaining why things were the way they were, and they had a lot more pictures, and they read a lot easier than some of the other things I saw that went out. But we got shot down. So hopefully that won't be the case this year, so that we can do
Press
that.
it, we can push it
Yeah,
on Facebook. We could hold information nights that are just for this. And, maybe
Just a
get
reminder
kids.
too, that our hands are tied a little bit with what's on the website and on ours, not so much the Facebook, but because of different laws that we have to meet, right, follow.
We're
So,
not captive.
right, so that's, like our meetings are live streamed, but then they don't go up live because they have to have the captions and all that good stuff after the fact. And so,
Yeah, and you can't chat in, you can't ask
right,
questions.
right.
But something like
So.
this, We could do more of that sort of thing.
And even creatively, people were saying, why didn't people come vote? I have 3 little kids at home, my wife works days, like, what am I supposed to do, you know? So getting Village Club involved to help babysit, there's a lot to help change the demographic that shows up at the polls.
Bedford got their high school because they offered to drive people. They had a whole committee that wanted that high school, and they went around and they picked up the senior citizens and they got them to the polls. They took a grassroots movement, and they literally were calling people, picking up phones, making phone calls for a week before voting, asking who needed to get rides, getting people to the polls.
So what we need is a core group of people tied into the school board, tied into the PTA, tied into the teachers, tied into everything, and get moms and
Daycares.
So,
bringing it all together. You know what I mean? We need to, but not
you
official,
guys
not
can
official.
do whatever you want, but
Well,
we just have to be very careful about how we position that the school board's tied into.
When I say tied into, I just mean where we can
Open lines of
organize something
communication,
like this.
that's fine. Right.
Yeah, lines of communication, not where your propaganda are.
And we're not encouraging you to do anything.
Right.
Yes.
But I think that it seems like we have everything we need for it. We just need to bring it all together and really.
And all the information we have is public knowledge, so if we would receive a request, we could share that with you, that would be fine. We just can't give you any direction or participate in anything.
Right.
Or endorsement.
Right.
But you could make sure the information we're disseminating is correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? This isn't why I came, but it bothered me a little. I don't know if you guys have anything to do with it, but why can't we celebrate holidays in schools? Like, our kids can't dress up for Halloween? How do we figure that out?
I think I got a request on that. There's nothing in the policies that restrict, that mention celebrations of holidays. And I looked, I didn't say it, so I directed the person who was a gentleman, can my child dress up at Underhill? I said, I don't believe there's any restriction of that, but that's something you need to deal with the principal. So there's nothing there's no policy, school district policy that restricts,
It says right in the handbook that you can't.
that says so.
It may be a combination of it.
It's not just
It's
Halloween,
also
like it's anything, like why
what
can't we
if-
celebrate any holiday? We can't acknowledge anything?
I think it gets tricky for the administrators too, because like, let's just take Halloween. Somebody comes in dressed up as something wildly inappropriate, how do you handle that?
Right, but like everybody does it. Like I guess that's.
Again, it's not said, I'll give an example actually. So when my son had Mary Ann, right, and this is stuff that happens. She had a Father's Day thing, right? They made Father's Day cards in the class. And it ends up like 5 kids start crying. Their dads are missing and this and that and whatever. And she was like, oh my God, it turned into a poem. You're just trying to make Father's Day. So that's part of it. But yeah, we don't get down at that level. I don't see why you wouldn't be able to do that. I have these, everybody laughs at the meeting. When my son used to go to Underhill, there was the dot, right? At recess, they had the dot. Mary remembers the dot. My son did not want to be on the dot, because what happened was, if you messed up during the day in class, you went outside. It's the worst thing for a boy, right? Watch other guys having a good time and have to stand on the spot. So they had the dot. And like, so if your son or daughter or whatever misbehaved, they would go to recess and stand in the dot and watch all the other kids have a good time, which I think is great, because my son was like, Dad, I don't want to be on the dot. And nowadays it's like, we don't want to put a kid in the dot. We don't want to humiliate that child. It's like, oh, come on. I mean, so yeah, stuff gets crazy.
Well, and it's called public shaming.
We also don't have, we don't have socks in here. We don't want to go to socks. Get in the stocks.
I never heard of safety issues with costumes, like everything's from a too big or costume, kids fall downstairs. I have heard some legit reasons for costumes.
that we don't
Yes.
control.
Okay, I've heard of it.
I'm with you, Phil. Public
So
shaming.
Underhill, they do a fall festival last year, and that got all messed up, the date this year. And,
I think it's the Friday before Thanksgiving.
he also did last year the Chinese New Year.
But why
And
is
they did
that?
a lot of celebration around that to bring in different
culture and stuff.
Bear in mind, it's not always their choice either. I mean, some of the policies from what you're saying, like, seem ridiculous on the face. But then you start to dig in a little bit more and you realize, oh.
Sometimes there's a religious aspect, but.
There was one where it was like, in school, and see, let's say a ridiculous policy. Come to find out the reason they instituted the policy was because basically there was a party at someone's house where one of the people in the house was a sex offender, and it splashed back on the school. You know, something like that. So there may be, it may be one of those things where it seems ridiculous and kind of petty, but at the same time, there may have been a triggering event that caused them, and sometimes it's an overreaction.
I'm sure it was something, yeah.
Which handbook was it that you?
I don't even honestly remember if it was a legitimate handbook, but I remember going through all the kindergarten paperwork, you know, you get a stack of papers. I remember reading that costumes were.
The student handbooks are developed by the administrators. So the building administrators get together and they're essentially the same for all three buildings.
Oh, what'd you miss, Kara?
I remember reading it. I was like,
Before holidays.
yes.
No, that's good.
Something I read.
It does seem like there was more we could be doing.
There was, I know that there was like a flyer or whatever this year.
Parent groups with
Yeah.
school board on more regular basis, not just about the kid, from kindergarten, but in general.
No, I think,
So-
I think things like this are good, and at the end of the day, to get everybody kind of.
Phil, one thing, just to jump off, I think somebody had brought up for here, you had brought up, Jill, that we're not allowed to have like a directory for parents for whatever reason. I don't know who we can address this to because one, and Mary Ann can speak to this, as a classroom teacher, we are put on the spot when parents email us and they're like, so I'm trying to find the name of this kid in your class. He has glasses and a red shirt on today. And I'm like, I'm trying to reach the mom, because there are parents that don't go to the soccer field. Their kids just don't want to play sports and that, and they can't get into clubs or, there's no way to communicate. Like, I am not on Facebook. So, when my daughter was in kindergarten, I was going out on my lunch break to talk to parents, but I had that luxury. Other people do not. And I don't know if this is something that we can discuss, like making it an optional directory, if you would like your name to be on there, like, please do this.
Littlefield signed off
But
on
it's not
it
Littlefield.
last spring. He finally said yes to a student directory at Underhill if another group would take the liability on. So I can tell you as your PTA president, I said, well, it's really hard in spring to put something like that together.
Yeah.
I need to sit and the board needs to wrap our heads around what type of liability, what disclaimer we want to put in it, how do we want to handle it. So I don't know, it's a superintendent thing, to answer your question. It's definitely a superintendent thing, and I don't know what Bill, our new superintendent's thought.
So like if there's like, I think if you write it and say, Anita Field will give my home email, maybe not a phone number, maybe not my house address, I will give you my home email, so if a parent wants to reach me to talk to me about a party, at least they have my email, you know what I mean? I mean, I guess I could see the flip side, like if all of a sudden somebody was like, oh, I remember that Mrs. Field, I'm gonna email her home, like.
FOPA policies.
Yeah.
It's like HIPAA for.
Yeah, but I think if it's volunteering, like if you're volunteering information.
But then you've got to sign waivers and.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I think
Yeah.
maybe it's just parents have to figure it out.
Yeah, it's just hard, I feel bad.
I know.
Or can the kids bring in
Yeah.
invitations?
I know, that's the really
I feel like,
And I don't
why
think you
can't
would
the
require
teacher
that.
give out the invitation, put them in their folders? Like, I know when I used to be a kindergarten teacher, the parent.
It puts us in a weird spot.
I know, but if you can't send out information, how are these parents like, I want Johnny to come to my birthday party, but, I had to do it for my son. I was like going on Facebook looking, being like, ooh, that mom looks familiar. And I had to message her.
I got a message today. Tonight I got a message from someone I did not know through Facebook. Hey, my son's in your son's kindergarten class, whatever, we're doing a party, this whole thing. It's.
Because that's the way, because you
Right,
can't
because
send
it's
them,
the only
yeah,
way.
you can't
I was
send
told
them.
when I asked the same question, because we're in a very awkward position as kindergarten teachers, because we dismiss our children.
Yeah.
and you're not allowed to see them giving an invitation, and you're feeling very uncomfortable about this, and so, you know, you do the best you can to let the parents know the rules, but when I did ask administration, they had said that if I were to put them in the envelope, it looks like the school is endorsing the home and town party. And you really can't put yourself in that position because I don't know you really, and I don't really know you really. And when the teacher's putting it in, it sends a message to the parents that, hey, Ms. Bushy put this in, it must be okay. And it may not be. And it probably is, but there's that little speck that it may not be. So respectfully, when they put it in there, it is to protect your child. Not from, you know, the traditional families that we see and we love, but it makes it more challenging that with the day of age you're living in now.
No, that is true.
And some parents drop and leave, some stay, and so it really opens up a whole, and they didn't want to be responsible for it.
Just
It's not necessarily that it doesn't help. The directive was born as an idea, because there was no other way for parents to get information.
Yes, but Mr. Loy knows that is an issue at Underhill. He gets bombarded with those.
Oh, I mean, even as a classroom teacher, I get bombarded, you know, like I feel guilty when a parent's like, they have invitations, and I'm like, I didn't see this email. Like, I'm like, okay, well, you know, so.
Honestly, not being able to send invitations at all, to me as a parent, is preferential to having to send an invitation to every student in the classroom. I'm sorry. If my son doesn't know your daughter, I'm not going to pay for her to go see a movie.
Why?
You know what I mean?
Just kidding. What do you think about my kid?
It's because all the parents seem to compete with each other now because it's on social media.
Yeah, blame interest.
Yes.
Yeah, it's dark hole interest. It's like the black button.
Does everyone feel like their questions were asked? So you guys are gonna let us know what the board or the SAU's plan is for full day kindergarten to get it summer?
Like, do you want an email in writing for, like, my husband who wasn't here, that he's on board with full day kindergarten? Because he has a very lovely email drafted that he's been waiting to send, and I was like, so.
I would say send it to us and the superintendent.
Okay.
To everybody. Again, so.
Specifically you, Phil.
Yeah, well, I get to leave it. So, I mean, this is good too, again, even just to hear everybody's concern, because again, obviously some of this stuff lies in the superintendent's arena, obviously a lot of like the day-to-day operations. But again, big things like kindergarten, it's like we need to know. Like I say, in the last couple of years, I was telling Kara, because I'm at the point, I'm like exasperated, I'm like, look, the last couple of years, nobody's really, I haven't had, honest to God, one person contact me last year about kindergarten, like saying they were Florida or whatever. This year, I literally had a woman who's a former teacher at the gym, like probably 3 or 4 weeks ago, and then I had one other person, and I'm like, I said to guy, I go, wow, actually,
It was
like,
me.
a couple people contact me. I see you at the gym too.
Yeah,
So,
hold it down.
it's like, you know, so again, it's tough for us to know, especially like for someone like me, my kid's like 20 and 25, right? So, and I'm not a Facebooker either. I try to stay off of it, the social media thing, as much as possible. I use it to sell crap, that's all I do. Marketplace. But yeah, so the only way we'll know is when people bring it up and come say something. Again, I totally understand why people can't make meetings, but again, I mean, if you can, I mean, if you have an issue and you want us to address it or something you're concerned about, you know, there's always the public input during the meetings. And again, I totally understand that it's working hard to get to a meeting, but you can watch them live stream too, and maybe you see something that you have an interest in, or whatever you want to voice something about. You can always try to do subsequent meetings like that. And obviously, it looks like this is.
Or an email at that point. It's like,
Yeah.
we're reading that.
Yeah.
Just-
Or not emails and phone numbers are on the website.
That goes back to what can we do? Maybe
That was one of my things that got deleted out of my letter, but
Don't let it make I hadn't heard anything,
Bus
so I
routes
sent an email because I'm like, okay, I haven't heard anything this year, I'll voice my opinion, and then I did ask a few other moms to at least write an email, and they said sure, and obviously it didn't go anywhere, so I just feel like.
So keep in mind when you email too, it's all can be right to know, so be nice.
Yeah.
No, seriously, like they
No, it
can
is.
right to know it, and anything that's all
Once
public.
it goes through the
Yeah.
internet.
Our email service, it's all public knowledge, just so you know,
Yeah.
you know, like, I don't know.
We will respond.
Oh, yeah, I can attest,
Yeah,
like,
oh yeah, no, you guys
we
responded.
had
Yeah, we
to,
have a disclaimer on our emails as well as teachers that says right to know, like at the bottom for parents, just an FYI, as a parent, if you send us like Joe Johnny's name attached to Joe Jimmy over here, like if a parent asks for it, they can see everything. So that is something that parents do need to be aware of, even though there's a disclaimer.
And we also have to watch, like, again, we all get an email type of thing, we gotta watch about like deliberating online, like we can't be doing that, I mean, as a board. So, we gotta watch that too, like maybe like a quick, you may get a quick message from one of us or something like that, but we can't be like, talking about what we're gonna do or whatever on a.
But I can say, when we were working on getting a bus last year, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Everybody got back to us like very quickly, so if you contact the board, they're really good about reaching back out. and
So any
making
other big
something.
issue besides kindergarten, we talked about the paras, obviously, and again, that's more a superintendent issue. The busing thing we're addressing right now. I mean, is there anything else that?
Sub issues.
That's any big issue that's.
So the only thing, I'm gonna just jump in real quick, because I was trying to get attention, because we were talking about paras and the rate of pay and stuff like that. I know you can't change the rate of pay for the substitutes. However, I've heard from many people who have put in to be substitutes that the process is ridiculous in our district, like ridiculous. They said there's like multiple steps, multiple interviews. Whether this is true or not, I don't know. I don't need to be a sub just yet. Ben may fire me tomorrow. But I think that is something that needs to be looked at, is what is the process for the substitutes. But the other thing too is we have SNU right there. Why are we not allowed to have SNU students substitute in our building? Because I do believe it's 2 years you need to have, correct?
No.
You don't need to have
My
two.
son was an 8th grader 5 years ago, substitute.
Okay, so
My son's Zach. So.
why are we not tapping into the people behind us who need money for other things on the weekend, that we can ask them to?
What other things?
There's
So it's
Well, but from my understanding though, if a student teacher is in the building, and Marion, I keep fielding my questions to Marion to make sure I'm not speaking out my other end. If you have a student teacher in the building from SNU, you are not allowed, that person is not allowed to get paid if they are subbing in your classroom, so now we're hiring a sub to be in the room with the student teacher who is teaching in the room.
You can't have that with their student.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. See, I didn't know that.
So the sub thing, in
Okay.
all seriousness, like Matt approached me a few years ago, it's like my son's actually a bunch of buddies that went to it at the same time, and I love him, he goes, look, in the spring, we're hurting for subs. He's like, get Zach and his buddies to apply. So literally, you get fingerprinted, they do a background check, and my son Zach was like, 18, and he was subbing. You know what I
He was in the
mean?
middle school, yeah.
So as long as
He was
it's
next
next
door,
door,
he
he
did
did
his
my
time.
So it's like, and it's a very easy process actually, and they're staffing for people, and actually, we bought software a few years ago that actually makes it much easier. You can go in and pick dates up front, so they know what days, like, if teachers, like.
Yeah, frontline, that's awesome.
You can go online and sign up, and you know what the positions are and what they're gonna be and that type of thing, so we've made it pretty much as simple as we can.
So as long as they're not in class, Kara, they can sub, like if they're not, like in Mrs. Faye's room, they can do it.
Heck, yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
When they're
Across
done
the
in
world,
May,
they
they
can
sub
use it.
until they in June, you know?
So yeah,
Same thing with technician.
I think we
They
should
don't
start
get
putting
paid for
flyers
that.
up on the new campus.
So my son had somebody tell him he couldn't park in the parking lot. He's like, I'm not middle school, I'm like, I'm here, I'm teaching.
But if you guys need to reach us, you go on the website, all the minutes are there, the videos are there, and all our contact information is there, so that's how you can find us.
Is this something that people would like to see us do more regularly? And I don't know what your schedule is like either, but, I mean, it seems like we have lots to talk about, and people
I
want to
think we should do
continue.
it once we know what we're doing for full day K.
Yeah.
Get a bigger crowd.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if we make this more regular, we have more time to
Maybe more time
get
to
it out
like
there.
plan ahead too. I mean, I know we knew about this for a while, but since all of this is going, like maybe.
Or coordinator on the sports schedule,
Yeah.
if there's like a lull in the sports schedule, I don't know, my kid's not athletic, but like if there's like a lull in the sports schedule, like a gap between winter and spring and.
There's no gap.
And happy. Which, I don't know, there's like one day where they're not
All the
jumping.
kids from Hooks are all making the pros, so there is no.
One of the things,
Is there anything else from the school board side that you guys are deliberating that you want the public to know about, or?
I do. I just, for the budget, it's awesome if you guys could come to some of the meetings, especially when we're presenting. If the para thing comes up, I know it won't be this year, but that will be a definite hot topic. Whatever we decide about for this kindergarten situation, when you guys are there and the conversations are wild sometimes what they have. And when you hear them and you're able to be there to voice your concerns, I have zero defense when whoever from the school board is sitting there and they're like, no one's even here.
Yeah.
Do people really want this? So if we could have
There's a
some,
handful of us that saved Alps a few years back and
Yeah.
completely cut.
But even like teachers try to go, but it's good to have like non-teachers there
It's
too.
good to have
Like
some
people from the
people.
community to come and hear what's going on, so.
When are the
I would
budget
be-
meetings?
Thursday nights.
they're every Thursday.
Oh, they're every
But the school isn't going yet. I'll forget the date of
You guys are going in December.
Yeah, December, yeah.
There was
Yeah,
Yeah,
some
it's
budget,
December,
you guys are
going
going
to
in.
finalize it by
And
January.
Education Association just put all those dates out to the
Oh, good.
members.
Yeah.
So encouraging attendance. So thank you.
Is
But
there any
yeah,
kind
and to
of
be fair to the budget committee, it's the same thing, I mean, trying to get a barometer of the public, right? And if you're gonna cut something and the public don't show up, and then also they should show up at the deliberative, that's kind of a kick in the butt for them, right?
Yeah.
They're
No
trying
one goes.
Again, they're trying to do their
budget
job to their
meeting.
credit and trying to like physically watch the
It's so much
town, you know what I mean? So.
And a
No
lot
one
of times,
goes
in
unless there's
fairness,
drama.
my husband's on the budget committee,
Yeah.
so just in fairness,
Yeah.
they were trying to cut a program that they really didn't seem to understand what it was. He's like, look, my daughter's an 8th grader, this was huge for them. Like, they just didn't I think it was the thing that's new.
Safeguard.
Safeguard. I don't remember if it was that or if it was something with home ec, but whatever it was, he's like, you can't gut this. Like, it's really a bigger deal than you think. It wasn't a huge line item, but no one knew what it was.
I think that there was one where the suspended kids, like from high school, had a place to go.
Yeah, that was a
One
big
where
one.
They
Oh,
said,
yeah.
save my daughter, and blah, blah, blah. But again, that stuff has a big impact, you know, on people. So, yeah. I mean,
So maybe we could ask our budget person, Adam, you could maybe put a little bullet list for us of hot items that are in our budget for
That might be.
those of us who don't want to read this whole book.
Just so you guys know, when you're looking at it, there's
Well,
like
Yeah.
salaries that's contracted.
Yeah,
Right?
that's
That's
contracted.
legally obligated money, and special ed you can't touch. They're
Well, yeah, I was
federally
thinking-
obligated
But
to
they
cover.
still-
So the amount you can actually cut is on the pie chart is so
Yeah.
small. And then that's the only thing that the budget committee has to work with, because that's the only amount that's movable. But that's the stuff that, the program, that's really supplies and programming. That's what that is.
But is there
Oh,
a
that's
vote
hard.
of some sort, and I'd be misremembering that you, with enough public input, you override it, something like that? I feel like there was a
Deliberative
deliberative
session.
session. So that's one where, if you're gonna show up, that's the one to show up to.
Right,
Where if there's
you
enough
can
people in the
change
room
ballot.
that raise their hands, you can override.
I think it's even
this.
better, Mary, if people go, I hate to take people's time, but if you go to the budget meeting and you see the cut, and then you can say, I heard the discussions, and I want to put this money back in, it's, I think, more valued and undebatable sometimes from the budget side, because you were there, and you heard the discussion, you heard the debate, whatever's going on. I think it's always, no, not to say you can't, the deliberative session is important to get there to, if something's cut, you can put it back, try to put it back in. But I think being at the actual meeting as well, or at least watching it, because they're recorded as well.
Those are streamed as well.
Those are streamed as well.
So just to give you like, and again, an overall, not
Yeah.
a bullet point.
Thank you.
So again, this is public knowledge because it was at our last meeting. So just so you guys know, like the budget that we propose is 2.5% increase, which is pretty reasonable. So, and we actually did a lot of safety stuff, like again, ADA stuff for the schools, et cetera. We eliminated a couple things, again, just trying to do stuff in steps. So we think that's fairly reasonable number, and we'll see what happens.
Won't that number have to be changed based on the contract?
What do you mean change? So.
Like if we're up for contract negotiation, how did that, for that's the school
That
budget?
would have to be changed.
That would have to be changed, correct? Well, I'm just asking.
No, that would,
Contract's a separate.
a contract would be a separate.
Oh, okay,
article.
yeah, gotcha.
So if it's a 3-year
Now it makes sense.
contract,
I thought they were all
and it's
changed.
approved, the second and third year would be
Gotcha.
included in the operating budget.
Okay. Jillian said there was no silly question. I thought I'd
No,
ask
no,
that.
That is typically a warrant article.
So what Karen was talking about, so it's actually pretty cool this year. So Amy restructured the budget. She actually, for the first year, it was a lot of work for her. She took the process that Karen had been doing for years, right? And again, it's the same information, but just disseminated differently. And she took it all and put it into a spreadsheet that very easy to understand, it's actually Lindsay has a book over there, but it's like, she color-coded and et cetera, and it really lays out the items that are kind of in the default budget that we already own, right? You know, there's no real negotiation there. And then the things that, you know, are items that, you know, could be cut, I suppose, for lack of a better term. But it's really nice because it lays it all right out and it kind of describes everything, which is pretty cool, so. It should make it much easier for the budget committee to review it this year, than in prior years, so.
Isn't that beautiful?
One of those.
Yeah, color-coded it up nice and.
Budget
Just for
committee is
now.
always working for people, so that's a really good way to get your feet wet. If you are interested in stuff that are going on in town, is the budget committee. Throwing it out there, numbers don't scare you. And there's a small group, and they meet with everyone in town, so you definitely understand what's going on in your town, because everyone has to present to the budget committee.
It seems like a lot of what our role could be in all this is to put information out there, and it kind of brings to mind something that, you know, and obviously there's a lot of difficulties. You know, Joe, you talked about, you know, you wanted to do a sign for a while, and this seems like a really good reason to maybe
When
put
you guys
that
like
higher up
pretty
on our
signs for the
radar.
school that display more than one thing at a time, not as crazy big as the library, but wouldn't it be nice to have signs with changing messages at the school, so it isn't Veterans Day, no school for 3 months, and then I could also have this event being told at the same time, and you could know what's going on in multiple schools. Yeah, that's a dream of mine.
I think we might be able to pull that off.
When you first said that, I'm picturing you out there with like the poster board.
Yeah,
Jill's our science spitter.
Thank you guys so much for.
Thank you for coming out and taking this little coffee discussion seriously. Thank you.